Okay.
Right.
Give me what you got. Okay, so...
He's ready. A lot.
Good. A lot is good.
Yeah, a lot is good because
A
I
lot
think...
gives you a lot of choices.
I woke up one morning in a hotel in Beijing. There was nothing there except for fog right up to the window. So then I called down to reception. Where's the world gone? I asked. At the moment, sir, the world does not exist.
Because you can't see anything.
Can't see anything.
I know. I've had that morning in Beijing.
All right, let's fucking do it. It's someone waking up after God knows what they've done. God knows what's happened the night before, waking up and realising that there is nothing, that the world's disappeared.
Okay, let's make the rock and roll.
The year is 2010. After a 5-year hiatus, a new third Gorillaz studio album premieres. Cue Plastic Beach. And it's a hell of a project, featuring such artists as Snoop Dogg, Gruff Rhys, De La Soul, Bobby Womack, Mos Def, Lou Reed, Mick Jones, Mark E. Smith, Paul Simonon, Bashi, Kano, Little Dragon, or Hypnotic Brass Ensemble, and with a playtime of almost an hour within its basic version, it's huge. It debuted at number 2 on the UK album chart and sold nearly 75,000 copies in its first week. Overseas, proud number 2 on the US Billboard 200, 112,000 copies sold in the first 7 days. It holds a 77 out of 100 score over at Metacritic. Also, numerously hailed as one of the best albums of the decade. Rolling Stone. Gorillaz' third excellent album in a row. Q Magazine. Some of the most forward-thinking pop you'll hear this or any year. Uncut. A brilliant concept album full of perfect pop singles. The Guardian. It is probably Gorillaz' most engrossing project so far. The Escape to Plastic Beach tour which follows is the band's first ever world tour in its career. Spanning over 37 concerts throughout North America, Europe, Oceania and Asia, it prolongs and cements the album's undeniable momentum. But, after such a huge-scale event, a question arises among the group's faithful fans. When are we going to get any new material? None of them expect to get the answer so quickly. And most of them don't expect to get a release which, in opinion of some, is going to be the last album of their beloved virtual band. Cue The Fall. The Fall was recorded over the course of only 32 days during the North American leg of the Escape to Plastic Beach World Tour by Damon Albarn and on Damon Albarn's iPad. And if it's not interesting enough, this diary of an album, it had as little as only 4 featured musical guests on it, of which with 3 Albarn has collaborated before. That meant it was full of Bud Albarn's ideas as ever on any previous Gorillaz record. Because The Fall instantly becomes a mesmerizing proof of his genuine brilliance as a musician and a composer. Not only is it full of his recognizable and unique vocals in the character as 2D. Tracks like Phone to Arizona, Hillbilly Man, Chi-Town or Aspen Forest show off Albarn's masterful sense of beats which are at the same time incredibly groovy and intricate and rich in sound profile, and created on the run on an iPad. The Drop-In Spider's whole melodic idea is based on a set of ear-piercing aggressive bass lines, while, on the other hand, California and the Sleeping of the Sun is a delicate serenade, which abruptly transforms into a psychedelic rollercoaster. Not to mention my own personal favorite, The Parish of Space Dust. Basically Frankenstein from Cowboy Town by Brooks and Dunn, Glenn Campbell's Digital Lineman, and Spike Jonze's Hawaiian War Chant. It embraces a space odyssey-like sonic journey, backed up by lonely, intensified voice of 2D. It's a brilliant and original album, just like any other Gorillaz album. I remember it quite vividly. A sunny summer afternoon, being 14-ish, holding the package from Ukraine, because The Fall wasn't really released in my country, Poland, at the time. First gorging my eyeballs at the beautiful, atmospheric cover art, then ripping the protective layers. Listening to it in one run, thinking, this is so awesome, and I haven't heard anything like this. It's a brilliant and original album, just like any other Gorillaz album. So, you may ask, how did the rest of the fandom and the world react to getting a brand new Gorillaz record in practically the same year? You see, some even believed The Fall was going to be Gorillaz' final effort.
Oh, Texas, can you hear me? Speed up on the dawn to the big San Luis of Houston in the sun.
The album cover of The Fall portrays Skinny 2D with his plastic beach cap, his face covered by shadows. He sits in a room which looks like his home studio. You can see the silhouettes of microphones in the foreground and some tall buildings, mostly covered by the city's smog, behind the windows in the background. Behind 2D's posture, a guitar and an electronic keyboard instrument on a couch he sits on. The whole picture is bathed in hellishly red neon tones as 2D is blankly staring somewhere beyond our sight. If you happen to be a dedicated Gorillaz fan, you must at least know about the existence of the Gorillaz storyline. But for those who do not know about it, it's basically a grand story that is set to unveil as new Gorillaz projects come to light. It's divided into phases, mostly synchronized with following albums. When The Fall hit the market, the storyline was at the phase 3, freshly off Plastic Beach. What's funny, some of the storyline's hardest followers were convinced it was the final step of the journey of Gorillaz. Those long posts on the internet are mysteriously nowhere to be found today, but I think I can recreate the train of thoughts from memory. The final track of the record, Seattle Yodel, feels almost like a last goodbye to the fans. The overall story doesn't seem to go anywhere. The artwork of the album, first of all, doesn't include any other members of the band as it always did, and secondly, is the same as the artwork of Plastic Beach. And to top it all off, 2D is still wearing the Plastic Beach outfit. Of course, as we all know now, The Fall wasn't the last Gorillaz album at all. But the supposed sadness of it supposedly being the last Gorillaz album didn't hold its critics back. Some of them who were hardcore Gorillaz fans till that point would even refuse to call The Fall the fourth studio album by the band, and instead call it a tour album, like it was a lesser form of the prior. Despite the album heavily including Damon Albarn's vocals, it was still hated. 7 years later, after the premiere of the fifth Gorillaz album, Humans, fans would express their outrage coming from such a little amount of Albarn's singing so hard that he would publish a brand new song featuring only his vocals a week later. The song is called Sleeping Powder. So, if the fans couldn't appreciate The Fall in the days of its release, maybe the critics could notice its greatness, you may think. And I'm sorry, but that is not what happened. 67 out of 100 at Metacritic, 5.8 out of 10 at Pitchfork Media, B- at Entertainment Weekly, 3 stars out of 5 at AllMusic, Consequence of Sound and The Guardian. Among mostly cold responses, the main accusation aimed at The Fall was that it was oddly out of character, as The Guardian wrote in their review. Overall, It was supposed to lack the feel of previous Gorillaz albums, as it says at Wikipedia. So maybe at least the charts welcomed The Fall enthusiastically. Well, it did chart in some countries, but it peaked at number 24 on the Billboard 200. A few months after Plastic Beach occupied the spot number 2. What is the value of this story? What do they want to say with all of this?
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Outrageous.
The Fall is a lovely little gem of a record.
That's the actual changes in the tone.
It's brave, original and novel, so in fact, as all the serious music should be. But the reception of the general public, the critics and even the fans made it feel unwelcomed on the days of its premiere. In effect, nowadays, people who listen to Gorillaz or are mildly interested in the band may even not know that an album titled The Fall exists. I often get the feeling that it was pushed to the corners of memory of the most hardcore fans. But lovely little gems like The Fall are very, very needed, I think. Especially today, which is dominated by uninspired pop albums that have nothing more to say except for "buy me." Because those lovely little gems are the most successful at pushing the art form and the medium forward and marking new eras and reinforcing new trends. In one word, keeping music alive. And The Fall didn't get that chance when it could. To me, The Fall is the most Gorillaz-sounding album from the whole discography, alongside with the remarkable The Now Now. Precisely because of how cheeky, underground and experimental it is. And is there even only one correct way Gorillaz should sound like? Isn't that a kind of philosophy directly opposite the sheer idea of progress or evolving?
I gotta practice.
Nevertheless, The Fall wasn't the band's final effort at all. After 6 years of silence, they published their monstrual Humans, and then, after a year, oh, history is a circle, the sweet The Now Now, and 2 years later they started the probably most original undertaking in the music industry of the past decade. An album published as a season with following songs as episodes on a TV series. And, as one of my beloved bands ever, they turned 20 this year. But that is only my opinion. And the value that I hope this episode delivers is that The Fall fell victim of too many people who were supposed to support it, discouraging other people from giving it a fair shot. So if you haven't listened to it yet, give it a fair shot. And see if it's your territory.
The musical James Bond.
If yes, I couldn't be happier. Welcome on my ship. If not, it's cool. You can tell me why you didn't like it in the comments below. I'd love to know why. But nonetheless, don't let anyone tell you what to feel about any work of art. That is always, anytime, in any part of the globe, yours. Don't let anyone guide your ship of opinion.
Someone's getting excited about this.
Helicopters fly over the beach, same time every day, same routine. A clear target in summer, when skies are blue. It's part of the noise when winter comes, it reverberates in my lungs. Nature's corrupted in factories far away. Here we go again.
Interesting effect. Do you see yourself?
I see myself. You see yourself.
I see myself when you see yourself.
But actually, I see you and you see me.
See me, yes.
And that's beautiful.